Welcome back to Anterran. So let's recap our last and first episode of Knights of Solaria, the voyage to Anthas. As the party bid farewell to the Knights of Solaria, the weight of leaving behind their former lives and embarking on a new adventure hung heavy in the air. Some had heard tales of Anthas in their youth and were eager to explore its secrets, while others were simply looking for a change of scenery. Just as they were about to depart, a mysterious figure approached them. It was former Sunspeaker from the Order, who had learned of their destination from Bran Ingrid, a mutual acquaintance and sergeant in the knighthood. Sunspeaker, named Sava, had a proposition for the party. She needed a group of skilled individuals to escort her to Anthas, and she was willing to pay each member 300 gold pieces for their services. She'd already chartered a ship for the journey, the listful hangman, and all they had to do was provide their expertise and protection. Without hesitation, the party accepted the offer. They knew that traveling with the Sunspeaker would afford them certain privileges and protections. The promise of a hefty reward didn't hurt either. Their journey was not without its challenges, however. During one fateful night, a ghost ship emerged from the mist, threatening to swallow them whole. The party worked together, using their skills and strength to fend off the spectral attackers and continue on their way. Finally, after several long days at sea, they arrived at the bustling port of Anthas. The city was unlike anything they had ever seen. Towering buildings and bustling marketplaces, newly coming to life. After assisting the local guard in turning away undead from a graveyard incursion, the promise of adventure and discovery hung in the air. The party knew that they were about to embark on a journey that could potentially change their lives forever. And so, we rejoin the party in the living world of Anterran as the Knights of Solaria continue. Let me set the scene for you. As you and your party make your way out of the graveyard, you can feel the weight of exhaustion and relief settling in. The sound of the guard dispatching the last of the undead echoes in your ears as you catch your breath. You turn to see a large, imposing figure slowly approaching, taking care to check that the area is clear of any lingering dangers before addressing you. The man introduces himself as Envoy Halvar, his deep voice resonating with a hint of authority. You can't help but feel a sense of admiration for his cautious approach and attention to detail. Based on your recent heroics, he says, I've been sent to ask if you're available to meet with Seneschal Xanthos. He has a dire need for those with your particular talents. If you would oblige, please follow me. And he turns and heads towards an area of the city that has been built out a bit more than the others. I assume the party follows?
Let's go.
Are we allowed to double book?
I'm not going to turn away work.
Coin is coin.
Envoy Halvar leads you through the winding streets of the town. Scent of baked goods and spices wafting from open windows and market stalls as you make your way towards a tavern known as the Wandering Lamp. A small pit stop in one of the marketplaces, or you hear some music playing. Envoy Halvar says, please give me 1 minute. And he walks over to a man wearing long gold and white robes, his hair kind of cropped close, ears pointed. Jason, describe your character.
Yeah, you guys see a close cropped haired. Looks a bit sure of himself. He wears long robes. You can see that he comes from a bit of money, but lately he's probably starting to run out. You see that he happens to have a couple weapons on his belt, but they don't seem like they've seen that much use, and he's entertaining himself by fingering his flute.
There's a short conversation, and the two of them shake hands. Halvar comes back to the group, trailed by this individual. And looking back at Brel, what do they see? And we'll start with, what does Brel see, Eladan?
He sees a satyr with a long gray beard, bow, etc.
And looking from the satyr, you see what looks like a facsimile of a dog made out of paper, and standing next to the dog, what does Brel see, Marin?
You would see a ostentatiously dressed, what almost appears to be an elf, but the ears are a little bit longer. The eyes are currently solid, like a blood orange, and same with the color of his robes. They're all blood red and hues of orange, and along with his hair. And he's currently pondering a blank scroll and he's twirling what appears to be a large calligraphy brush.
Thanks, Marin. And standing behind both Mayron and Eladan is probably a large figure, larger and standing out more than any other person that you've seen relatively in this place. Brel is a dragonborn. Jordan, what does Brel see?
So the majority of Ren's body is covered with this imposing plate mail, longsword at his side, shield strapped to his hip, and a pack on his back. And you notice that there's no tail coming from behind the Dragonborn, and even though he has a helm on, you see what is, not like a full-on dragon snout, but kind of a half snout, just jutting out a little bit, and you see copperish scales and gleaming white teeth. Yeah, Ren is just this big, imposing figure who happens to be a paladin.
Fall into place behind Halvar and approach the tavern, you notice the flickering light of covered lanterns illuminating an outdoor patio, giving it a mystical quality that's hard to resist. Across the street sits the new Anthas Council House, an impressive structure with well-manicured gardens and a large, ornate entrance. The sound of lively chatter and clinking glasses drifts towards you as you approach the tavern's patio. Merchants and New Anthas leadership sit enjoying their dinner, discussing business and politics as they eat. You can feel their eyes on you and your party as Envoy Halvar leads you to the patio. Seneschal Xanthos, a heavy-set man with an imposing presence, gestures dismissively as the gathered merchants and councilmen quickly gather their plates and steins before moving to the interior of their wandering lamp. Halvar unlatches the nearby gate and leads you into the patio, which is decorated with intricate carvings and lush greenery hanging all around. As you approach, the seneschal stands up and acknowledges you with a respectful nod. Can't help but feel a sense of unease as you make eye contact with him, this large, imposing figure, both large, being tall and round, his calculating gaze seemingly taking in every detail about you. Meanwhile, Halvar approaches the attendant, a tall, balding man wearing a fine, albeit slightly worn tunic and trousers. He speaks softly to them, requesting the evening's house special and accompanying beverage for you and your party. The attendant nods, disappearing into the tavern's interior, leaving you with the seneschal and Envoy Halvar. The seneschal gestures to the newly vacated spaces around this large table on the patio for you to sit.
Yes, we're sitting.
As you take a seat at the grand table, the seneschal's presence looms over you like a great mythical beast. His voice, deep and resonant, reverberates through the room as he speaks. Thank you for accepting my invitation on such short notice. Word has reached me that you possess skills of legendary proportions, and I am in urgent need of your aid. As if by magic, the seneschal's stein fills with a shimmering liquid that glows with an otherworldly aura. He takes a long draught of his drink before gesturing for the attendant to bring forth your feast. A sumptuous display of exotic seafood and rare delicacies is placed before you, accompanied by sweet tea infused with enchanted herbs that likely dance upon your tongue. He gestures around to the city. Behold the progress we've made, proclaims. We work tirelessly to restore the great coastal city to its former glory. But there is one task that remains unfinished. He continues, his piercing gaze locking onto you. The tower at Anterran Point, once a mighty beacon that overlooked the city, harbor and valleys inland, has fallen into darkness. Lord Amunet has commissioned the young mage Iva Agne, also known as Iva the White, to restore its signal boxes with her potent spellcasting abilities. However, something has gone awry. Iva and her party, including the fierce elf ranger Aurelia Summerbrook and the brilliant mountain dwarf engineer Franco Firth, have not returned from their journey to the tower. The situation took a dire turn when a white crow, Iva's familiar, arrived with a desperate message scrawled in charcoal. Undead in tower. Help. The seneschal face contorts with concern as he continues. I fear for the safety of the tower and the well-being of our people. The clear threat to the progress we've made in New Anthas. My job is on the line, but I have faith in our ability to come to an accord and your legendary abilities to save the day and, well, save my job. He smiles and his large belly shakes. As a reward for your heroic efforts, the city is prepared to offer you a hefty sum of 2,000 gold pieces for the successful recapture of the tower. And if you manage to rescue any member of Iva's party alive, I will personally throw in an additional 100 gold pieces for each who return. Of course, any loot you recover from the undead is yours to keep, excluding the hostages and their belongings. He pauses, his eyes scanning the room as if seeking some kind of divine intervention. I've inquired for the aid of the local clerics, but they're currently seeing those who were injured during the battle with the horde of undead in the graveyard. However, they have agreed to provide you with 4 precious potions of healing. Though they come at a premium, I've already paid for these potions. He leans closer. And one more thing, the mountains have been blanketed by a thick fog for the past few days, perhaps providing cover to sneak up to the tower undetected. But beware, we've heard the undead within are powerful and relentless. The seneschal leans back in his seat and his gaze looking to each of you. Will you accept this quest and become the hero the city needs? I guess you would say heroes.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I haven't had a good peach since leaving home, so...
What's the likelihood that we'd survive?
I do not know. We just heard word from the city in the graveyard that a ship with legendary heroes and individuals had arrived from the City of Swords and helped turn the incursion of undead in the graveyard. And, well, once I heard that, I sent my good man here, Halvar, to witness your heroics. And I know not what is at the tower, but if you can prove yourself here with that undead incursion, I'm assuming you could probably do the same, particularly you, my good dragonborn, as he takes in your plate armor and your very regal bearing.
I only ask because no deed is worth doing unless knowledge of you doing it rings out across the world.
Well, as you know, we're rebuilding this great city from the dust and ash that the volcano spewed forth, and we've done a relatively good job. There's people here from all over Elaren who have come to ply their trade and sell their wares and help us rebuild the city. Lord Amunet is very excited to get this very strategic trading port here at the south end of this isle back underway so we can start trading to the Far East Isles out to the west. I'm sure if you prove yourself here, those stories will carry themselves, not only throughout the city, but to its newfound community. At some point in time, I'm sure, will either make their home here or head back to where they were, legendary tales upon their lips.
I understand. My companions may want the gold, but if there's any magical items you can provide, anything to help us in our goals, it would be helpful, other than the healing potions, of course. Otherwise, the gold will be useful in purchasing better weapons to bring us further glory.
Ren, give me an insight check.
13.
13.
And yeah, what was his last name?
Seneschal Xanthos he was introduced as. You get the sense, Ren, that he puts up with the local young lords that he might indeed call yokels. You seem to feel that he probably was called out of retirement from the Crystal City, or the city of Crystal Coves, or at least the City of Knowledge, called out of retirement by his lord to come help rebuild this place. And there's a good chance where he has to come here every night instead of going home to his family and debate with the young lords and the merchants who are obviously all here for some kind of greed to also make a name for himself. But you get the sense he would probably rather be back home, but he has high esteem for his lord. He is a capable leader, or at least he feels himself as a capable leader. I don't think he wants to be here entertaining these people every evening simply because it's across the street from the council house. Well, unfortunately, most of our resources and money have gone to the stonemen, the engineers, the woodworkers, carpenters to rebuild the city. when that volcano erupted, it unleashed all kinds of beasts here, and we had to bring some of our personal guard here, as well as hire some of the younger folk who could wield a sword. It's not that difficult, seeing as how City of Swords is up north, but it gets expensive, and would love to be able to provide you with any kind of weaponry or otherwise. We have no idea what's up there. Perhaps if we give you money to buy weapons, you guys will just disappear, and we can provide you potions, provide you incentive to bring people back alive, and I would say a hefty sum for a few days' work bringing these people back.
You don't know us, and I understand. We thank you for the potions. We look forward to accepting the gold when we are successful.
Well, that's great. That's really good to hear. And you see a sense of relief come over this gentleman. He's probably had to deal with mercenaries and deal with people who really weren't prepared to take up some of the leadership here, and a lot of the responsibility has fallen to him. But he says, please enjoy your meal. I'm going to check in inside, and I'm going to head back home for the evening. Lord Halvar here will be available for any questions you have. And if you want to ask about the people who have gone up there besides Iva and some of the information, feel free to gather some information from the townsfolk before you head up. It's been a few days. Typically, they would be back by now. Take your time in gathering some information, should you choose. And as he stands up, you see his meal. He's pinched at it, but it's virtually untouched. His heavy bulk is somewhat sunken and fallow. He was, at some point over the last several months, losing weight relatively quickly as he deals with all the concerns around rebuilding a populous area or city that has significant history, such as Anthas. As you sit around with your newfound friends, some of you serving together with the knights for years and others relatively new to the party, you take in your evening meal. What happens?
Mayron immediately walks up to Brill, just grabs their chin with their two fingers, turns the face. Yes, you've got quite the jawline. I'll have to draw your portrait someday. And then just lets him go and falls back dramatically into his chair.
This one's friendly.
Yeah. Who wants a potion before I eat my food and his food that he left?
How many do we have?
I think he gave us 4.
One each?
I suppose that makes sense.
So, Brill, was it? How are you?
But you can call me whatever you like.
Very well. Whatever you like. How did you get mixed up in all this?
Honestly, I'm just trying to write something that will leave a legacy. I was told that being a musician would never lead me anywhere. So I'm here to prove them wrong. Maybe I'll write a song about your, Sir Ren? Was that it?
Yeah. And you see now he just took all of that dude's food and just poured it onto his plate. And he knows he's at a fancy restaurant. He doesn't give a shit. He's now just piled food onto a plate and has just started eating it. And he's crunching. If there's any bones, say there's a chicken leg or something, he's just crunching through all of it with his dragon-like teeth.
Mayron kind of leans forward a bit. You're an artist. Wonderful, wonderful. I was waiting for another artist, and you see him kind of them bristling with energy, and their eyes start to turn a hue of green, and all the colors in their robes and hair start to turn this green as well.
You will obviously be a font of inspiration. I think fortune favors me for running into your group.
Now, how to best capture the last battle that we were in, to memorialize it onto page and paint, grasp the feeling of undeath, that emptiness. Yes, emptiness. And you see just all the color drain from them. They're just grays and maybe very pale blues, and their smile fades. Yes, that scene needs emptiness. And they turn away from the group and just start painting.
I should say that art is good and all, but the only reason I put up with him doing it is because he also participates when the fighting starts. There's no point in writing or singing about glory or painting it even if you can't participate in earning that glory, are you going to be able to hold your own, Brill?
Well, I've survived so far.
You look pretty well off. That could just be you hiring mercenaries to keep your flute clean.
You were fingering it quite vigorously.
Well, I guess I'll have to show you.
All right.
But it does help if you can keep the skeletons off of me. Can I trust you to be a wall, at the very least?
If I'm doing my job, you should be rarely attacked unless you put yourself in a disadvantageous position. But I plan on killing anything that might seek us harm.
I like your style, Sir Knight.
Eladin, you'll agree with me. Glory is nothing if not fuel for the arts.
I wouldn't call that last battle too glorious. We almost died.
Yes, the anguish was quite delicious. And we cast small talk.
Well, no. I'm not great at talking to people, just the way the paladin's made. I don't know what your charisma is like, Jason, but I am totally down to help out or to participate in any asking questions, see if there's any information here. Because he said there are some people who know of other people trying to go up there, or who have gone up there and returned, or there are people who've gone up there and haven't returned. So any information we can garner here while we're eating will really help us out before we make our trek up there.
Sure, yeah. Above board, my charisma is probably a bit higher than yours. But we can go ahead and talk to people if that's what you...
I think it's the best thing we can do. So yeah, did he like point people out in particular we could go talk to, or is it just anybody around the area? DM.
So Envoy Halvar has information that he can provide about the party that was sent up there. It's been a few days, and one of the senses you got that's probably weighing heavy on him is the gossip that happens throughout the city. So you can learn about the party that went up there from Halvar, and then you can gather information about amongst rumors, whether it's here in the marketplace, seedier parts of town, the higher end places. Up to you.
Yeah, it's like to have our first Harvar, whatever his name is.
Perilous is a ranger in the Company of Resistance. It's called, for short, the Corps. It's a brotherhood of rangers who was formed and sworn to watch the trails between the tower lighthouses, keep them open, and generally guard peace. Naturally, with the volcanic eruption, destroyed the tower at Anterran Point, and we rebuilt it. We hired her to take the rest of the crew up there. It's said that these Guardian of Rangers, Company of Resistance, are busy in the north taking care of another uprising, and the local fighters for hire clearly needed a new Anthas as he gestures around to guard the city and its workers. She took them up there as a favor, and she rode a light warhorse with chain barding, and the animal was well known to everyone here, and it was all black except for a white face, and half of its left ear was once cut off in a fight. Well armed, long sword, long bow, throwing dagger, dark-haired woman, years of experience in wilderness survival. It's somewhat troubling that they have not returned. Engineer Franco Firth, last seen wearing a ring mail with a shield, carrying short sword and light crossbow. This mountain dwarf spoke with some townsfolk in the local taverns before going up the mountain. Originally trained in masonry and carpentry with a good education for engineering, Franco Firth sought a more adventurous life by becoming a fighter, and he had enjoyed some successes at it. Naturally, when Iva looked for a group to come, being both an engineer, familiar with rebuilding the roads, and looking for adventure, he was one of the first ones to sign up. But boy, he has quite the temper and quite the tongue. Iva the White, wore a plain dagger and a belt sheath, and she used no staves or wands. Aside from a little cooking and her magic, she seemed to have no other skills. A silver ring, possibly magical, was worn on her left ring finger, and she mentioned that her spells were kept in a traveling spell book, which was, well, always kept on her person. The Anterran Point is built upon an unspoiled wilderness before the eruption, and the mountains are prowled by dangerous foes It has been known for small caravans disappearing in the forests. As far as the rest of the party, there's a dwarven warrior and several men-at-arms that came into town with her. No one really found them to be of any interest, and the 5 mercenaries somewhat kept to themselves, as was the custom of their brotherhood, and spoke little to local people. And the mercenaries were armed with long swords, long bows, and wearing leather armor and using large shields. All 7 of his party were mounted on mules, with 4 more mules carrying supplies, totaling 11 animals in their tack. And he gestures around. New Anthas is surrounded now by several miles of farmland, and the lower slopes of the mountain were rich grazing lands, and cattle and goats begun tilling the soil in places less affected by the eruption, just to generate some crops for people we've hired on here. A little mining is done in this area, but an encounter with a lone prospector is not unusual. I've asked members of clerics to help with some assistance, and they're busy board in the graveyard as such. And Seneschal Xanthos helped provide something for you, but there's a premium for other priestly, how should I say, wards, opportunities. Who knows? He looks back at you, somewhat providing most of the information available that he knows that he was able to depart to you.
That's a big group.
And none of which made it back.
Well, not yet, at least.
Yeah, please let us know who else we can talk to about this, and thank you for this meal.
City's always bustling both day and night, as the work seems to never stop, and people working around the clock. And while it's a little sparse late into the morning hours, there's always work to be done. For me, I'm gonna grab something to go and turn in for the evening, and hope to see you again. With that, he leaves out the small gate as he leaves the patio of the wandering lamp and heads out into the night air, relatively brisk this time of year. Then you find yourself on the patio inside several younger lords and or merchants, their noses practically sticking against the glass as they look out at your party having dinner in their preferred spot on the patio. What happens now?
Can we go get more information after we enjoy this meal?
Oh, we can do our best. It seems that there is no first-hand information to be had, but there's things you can glean from rumor. Whether they be helpful or not is yet to be seen.
As you continue with your meal coming to an end, some of the merchants and younger lords have left for the evening. The traffic on the new streets, or at least the newly cobbled streets of New Anthas, dies down somewhat, but you can hear in the distance the call from people at the marketplaces and others moving towards Temple District for help, or it's up to you where you would like to go.
Well, you gave us a list, right? Let's go talk to some people, see if we can get any more useful information, and then let's get up there, I guess.
Are the 4 of us traveling together?
Do you want to travel separately for some reason?
Cover more ground. No offense, but I don't know how much information you would get from areas that are known for more underhanded work on your own.
Oh no, I am blunt, and I am to the point. My father says I need to work on that. Maybe I can come and just keep my mouth shut. Yeah, if you want to split up, we can cover more ground. I'm sure it's safe here in the city.
Either way, let's start with the temple. They seem to be or the merchants. The merchants are the most well-traveled. Oh, wow. How'd I forget your name?
I can hear the sounds of NPCs being rolled.
Yes.
So you're going to the temples first? Is that fair to say?
Let's go to the temples first, yeah.
As you head to the temple district, temple area very similar to those in Festi Horror, revering the northern gods, or the Norse gods as they call them here on this isle. Northwest Anazera, temples to Odin and such dot the street. Each temple built in more grandiose fashion than likely had occurred before, and much busier than they likely had been before your group weighed anchor in the port, as even on the steps, you see those victims of the undead horde that escaped the graveyard. There are a few what look like acolytes helping an elderly lady who is carrying her elderly husband, or at least having that husband lean against her, as they tend to acolytes in front of the Temple of Freya. That is the first group you come upon.
I will be nearby making my prayers if you want to start talking to these nice folk.
Sure. Are any of the injured looking stable, or are the priests kind of just keeping them comfortable at this point? Do they look like they'll make it?
Looks like they'll make it. Most of those people who were caught unawares by the undead horde were quickly those elder folk who have remained here, maybe farmers. Most of the people here are relatively young and strapping, but looks like at least this couple of elderly folks they'll make it, as the acolytes tend to. The grandfather.
All right. Well, Bro will walk up, address the elderly lady. Grandmother, my party, and I will gesture to the praying Ren. We're tasked with seeking vengeance for those of you that were hurt. If you could tell me anything that you saw, anything that you heard, it may be helpful.
Well, I heard these devils, these fiendish skeletons. They came from the old city in the graveyard, but I think it's those people at the tower. You say you're going to take vengeance, injured my dear. Is that what you say?
That's what we're here to do.
Give me a persuasion check with advantage.
Let's see if my die hate me or not. I forgot to press advantage. Roll again. That's not great. 18?
She leans in close and whispers to you. From what I understand, there's a battalion of orcs in the tower that are causing these undead to run down this mountain here.
Battalion of orcs, huh? And this tower is somewhere, above the table. Do I know where this tower is?
Yeah, you know the tower. It's a newly built tower where the volcano blew out. It blew out to the west, and it completely destroyed the last tower that was there. But they have since rebuilt the cobbled road, about a 10-foot wide path that leads up to this first tower. Road is supposed to continue, although not newly cobbled. Everything here in the city has been built, bearing no expense, to be a grand port city.
Holy shit, John Hammond's here?
The the tower has been built at the edge of the cliff face where the volcano erupted, and the tower sits up there, and she points kind of into the evening, and you see through the partly cloudy skies the moon as it's coming up over the volcano, and a large tower in the distance. Lord Emunet of the Isle of Crystal Coves was the person responsible for the rebuilding of the city, and Lord Xanthos is his loyal subject in charge of overseeing the reconstruction.
Well, ma'am, that information will probably help secure our victory. We'll be back in a few days, and we'll bring tidings of our efforts. And I will probably go back to someone who's not praying.
You have Eladan and Maron.
Did you guys know there were orcs in the area?
First time hearing of it.
Maron doesn't give you any attention at all, and they're just furiously with broad strokes putting ink to parchment.
Slightly heartbroken, but understood. Well, I will kneel respectfully by Ren and wait for his prayers to end.
Yeah, so you hear Ren saying, May the All-Father give me the pride and strength of Thor, the wisdom of the All-Father himself, and the kindness and compassion of the witch Freya. May her magic keep me and my companions safe as we go to the tower to end this threat to the city and gain even more glory upon our names. And then he looks to you. He says, I don't have an animal to slaughter at this temple, but hopefully my prayers will be enough. What knowledge have you gained?
Seems the locals believe that these undead are being riled up by orcs in the tower.
You just watch as this toothy, spiked tooth grin spreads across his face underneath his helm as he says, I was hoping I'd be able to taste the blood of our enemies. Skeleton has very little left on it. It's good to know. Good to prepare for. Well done.
Mental note, that's also good to know. Bro, we'll try not to try not to bleed too close to you, just in case you get hungry.
You're not an enemy, unless you make yourself one.
Oh, only enemy blood tastes good. I see.
Uh-huh. How else do you get strong if not off the blood of your enemies?
Well, I like to do some cardio in the mornings, but to each their own. Well,
DM, was that all there was in this area? There was one other place, wasn't there?
There are several places you can go to. There are the marketplaces. There are the seedier parts of town. Naturally, the taverns by the docks. More well-kept places that are up the mountain, somewhat separated from the rest of the group, is probably where Lord Xanthos and the other people meet, but there naturally are going to be higher-end shops. And, of course, there's workers and guards that are working and toiling away, rebuilding the city 24/7.
Let's speak to all we can before we make our way up the tower.
sure. This time of night, who's probably the taverns are the most efficient at this point? Because after dinner, correct?
It is after dinner. It's not late evening, but, let's call it between 9 and, which would be 9:30, I guess I could have said.
We'd like to try to hit one of the merchant areas before they close shop for the night. We might be able to catch them and then end the night by the taverns, if you're done with your prayers.
As I said, I have no sacrifices to make. Forgot to bring a goat. We should move on.
And Brill, as you make your way back towards where you first met Envoy Halvar, you typically find yourself outside the marketplace trying to ply for a few coin, fingering your flute. The marketplaces are relatively busy because for the amount of people that are here, people have to have food. They have to get tools if they can't fix their tools when they break. They have to come here and get new tools, and there are constantly items being made from the carpenters, swords and shields being fixed at the blacksmith shops. You make your way back across towards what is known as the New Anthas Market, or as many people call it, an acronym for everything. They call it the NAM, or the name.
All right. Not having the most resources at his disposal at the moment, he'll probably try to find like a guard or something to like a wealthier like weapons shop or like potion shop or something where adventurers should go through and people are traveling should go through, but he's not going to try to talk to the shop owner. He wants to talk to someone who works there.
As you make your way in, you hear the clanging of hammers on anvil, the constant clang, clang, clang. And with the undead incursion that just happened, you imagine that there are several guards here getting their wares fixed on the dime of Seneschal Xanthos, or being guards. You make your way in past some of the markets. It's quiet, but they're still open and there are still people here. But there's a particularly larger presence around the blacksmith shops. Just like every other stall in the marketplace, the open air sits and the yellow reddish coals glow brighter as the bellows push forth and the blacksmiths ply their trade, as the guards, who have had some of their weapons and or shields dented or broken, wait for them to be fixed.
Sure. Then I probably would have dropped a gold just to get a flask of something to pass around. And if you don't mind, yeah.
Of course.
A flagon or
You
something.
can drink whatever you want.
Sure. Something nice, but not something that's not going to cost me more than a gold.
Yep.
He'll just go and lean up to where they seem to be waiting. It's been rough out there lately, huh? And he'll take a swig from the flagon.
Glances over towards you and he looks longingly at your small flagon or flask and he's got some obvious blood on his chainmail, or at least the tabard that covers it, and hair is somewhat unkempt, and he's a little bit dirty. A streak of some dirty claw has scraped him on his left cheek and down the sides of his neck, and he smacks at the flies, or at least the insects that may be looking for a quick meal off his blood. And indeed, I've never seen anything like it. That was crazy. Thank goodness for those few that arrived from the ports, or we would have never been able to turn them back.
Yeah, and seeing the glance, he'll silently offer the flask and say, "Few that arrived from the ports, huh?"
Yeah, looked like a dragon, except for in gleaming plate armor, standing heads and shoulders above, weighed in to these hordes coming out, while there was another he looked like he was made of fire. And he goes on to describe the rest of your newly found party, of how they...
You mean the group's standing awkwardly over there in the corner, not talking to anyone? That group?
And he looks and he takes a swig of your thing, and he looks the way you look towards that group, and he raises your flask to your party and takes a brief drink before he hands the flask back to you. If they hadn't arrived in time, we would have never made it. I don't think we would have ever made it.
Well, I've teamed up with this group of heroes of yours, and we're thinking about going back out there, see if we can find the root of this problem. We're looking for any information.
Back out where?
Towards the graveyard, right? That's the issue. It's a graveyard.
The graveyard was taken care of. Now that it's more about what's happening at Anterran Point.
Yeah. Up towards the point. Do you have any intel of what's going on?
Some of the men in my company speak of persuasion check with advantage.
Ooh, advantage again.
Giving the guy some booze after a crazy graveyard fight.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Dirty 20.
He leans in close. I saw your comrades fight, but I don't think they can take the tower back. Some of the men in the company said they've seen a black-clad figure riding a dragon that circles the mountain peaks when the moon shines brightest.
Seems we should keep an eye on the sky then. Anything besides a dragon that we need to slay. And Bro will take a larger swig himself at this point. Now that he's hearing that there's a dragon in the skies.
What's worse than that? You feel confident you can slay whatever this warlock is and his pet dragon, and your names will be known far and wide. Hell, when I visit my family back home, you come back and clear that tower out. No, your names will be on the lips of everybody in the Eastern Kingdoms. I'll tell you that.
I know a certain dragon-like knight who would be glad to hear it. Oh, thank you, friend. And I will leave him the rest of it's probably not that much, but I will leave him the rest of the flask and move on to my party and let them know that there is now a dragon riding warlock that we have to watch out for. Guys, this is 100 gold apiece is starting to sound not like a good deal.
It was 500 gold apiece.
It was 500 gold apiece.
Yeah, the 100 was a bonus.
All right, I'm in.
We will earn much renown by sending one of my cousins home, crying.
I believe it was 100 peaches.
You get the peaches, I get the gold.
Now please, I'm almost finished.
That's what she said. Where are we going next?
I believe the last place was the taverns.
Good, I need a drink.
Yeah, we could probably all use one of those.
And as the party leaves the marketplace, Eladan and Mayron retracing your steps from earlier in the day. Although this time you're walking much slower than the run you used on the way to the graveyard. You find yourself on the docks. Several different places stand out. You come upon one called the Empty River. You probably know that many of the flagons and steins in this establishment probably don't stay empty for long. As you approach this empty river, the noise and raucous nature greet you well before you reach the door of the empty river. It is clearly not empty.
The more people there are, the more likely someone will have an answer, right? Have you guys attempted to leverage your newfound fame? It seems like you guys are pretty famous around here.
Only the weak leverage their glory for personal gain. I will, however, use it for more glory.
Yes, for more glory. And more peaches?
Fame from battle, how insignificant.
Yes, just think of the fruit. And I will usher them into the bar.
And as you make your way in, the shorter members of the party heading in before Ren coming in last, as everybody turns and looks and hey, grows quiet suddenly as new people come in. And there are people from every walk of life here, ancestry, heritage. The place is packed. The smells of the ocean. And as your party comes in, followed by Ren at the end, everybody, hey, and the music continues to play. One of your rivals here, a lute playing person, beautiful halfling woman by the name of Robbie Brushgather. She wears a nice pale green tunic, almost of the ocean. She always plays here on the docks, and she's playing, and people are dancing in front. And as people look your way, and as your party walks by, as you make your way up to the bar, people somewhat get out of the way for these new heroes of New Anthas, and there's some pats on the shoulders and clearly inebriated and getting too close and offering to buy drinks on behalf of saving the city or because they're hammered. Your party makes its way to the bar, and you find 4 open spots. There is a half-orc male wearing like a deep blue and gray tunic and a blue circlet sitting on their head, a little bit crooked, wiping down some of the empty mugs on the bar or behind the bar. What can I get for you?
Your worst ale.
Oh, you came to the right place. Everything here is terrible. Hang on.
Yes.
And as he turns around, he takes these large flagons, clearly more water than booze, fills them up and sloshes them in front of you. Somebody sitting at the bar leans forward. Morg, I'll pick those up for these heroes. The gnome female, wearing a black vest and breeches, nods and smiles and tips her cup back. Give me another one, Morg. The good stuff this time. Her voice really hoarse and deep. She wears earrings on both ears that look like waves that crest over from forward to back, and at the tips that look like there's what look like emeralds that have been carved and set to the ends to look like a almost ocean wave as it crests and crashes over. She turns to her left and starts talking to another individual there. What looked like half-orc male. And she starts, Derek, your wife's. Oh, she's fantastic. And their conversation gets lost in the arousal of the crowd as they sing, dance, and have their own discussion. You guys have been to port cities before, but this is an absolute middle of the week here at the docks. And you get the sense that or has been like this all the time as ships come and go day and night constantly as the rebuilding of the city continues. Morg returns, drops the mugs in front of you. Boom, 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 boom. Dennis gonna take care of it. So you were the ones that everybody's talking about. He points to Ren and Elodan, and I'm sure everybody appreciates what you've done. Why are you down here at the docks? I mean, of course, heroes will always come to the best place on the docks, the empty river, but it hasn't been empty lately, and let's make sure those drinks don't get empty, even if, and he nods his head in Tana's direction, even if Tana has to pay for it, and he gives you a bit of a wink.
The people are the most important part of any society, any city, any town, any kingdom. And we're going up to the point to try and stop what happened before from happening again. And what better place to prepare than in the company of the people that we're trying to help. We thank your generosity, and I gotta say, for being the worst ale, you sure damn taste like the best.
He smiles. That's great to hear. Everybody, Everybody in quiets down a little bit. Our friends here, and he starts pointing to each of the group. They're going up to the point to find out what's going on. They're heading up to the tower. After all they've done for us today, they're going to go up to the tower. Can you believe that? And there are hushed whispers around the tavern as fearful faces look back towards your own, who haven't been drinking as much, cast a cautious glance in your direction, and others who have been obviously drinking heavily. Huzzah! Huzzah! You turn back to Morg and would you like something to eat? It's on the house for what you're doing for the people here.
Ren just looks down at this person, his massive bulk inside plate armor, and says, "I could always eat more. I won't eat you out of tavern though. So whatever you have to spare, we appreciate. Is there anyone here that might have some information about the point? Anything that might help us as we go up there and see if we can stop this madness?"
Give me a persuasion check with advantage.
Give the bard a little bit of a break.
Appreciate you, sir.
Man, at least I'm consistent. That's a 2 and a 3, by the way.
Morg leans into you and he says, I hear there's a pack of flesh-eating ghouls lurks in the tower. One of the boys came by through leaving out a few days back that one of his friends or one of his mates decided not to go back on the ship and took up a little bit of service with some witch. Went up there and got halfway up the mountain, said there were some undeads eating flesh, and we came back and decided to get back on that boat. You know, who knows what that truth is? I'm sure you guys can take care of it.
Something to look out for. Appreciate it.
Right, so some undead flesh-eating orcs, huh? This keeps better and better.
I mean, yeah, we could have just gotten a straight up rumor. But you take the good with the bad. Ren doesn't know that I rolled a natural 2 and a natural 3.
Yep, neither does Morg.
Well, let's enjoy this hospitality, and then we going up tonight or we going in the morning?
I mean, I would assume that orcs and dragons are better than us at night. It might be easier for us to sneak up during the day, but it's up to you guys. How far of a travel is it, DM?
Yes, it is going to be several hours. Anterran Point is the back half of this volcano, and the altitude is 6,200 feet at the signal tower's base. It's not the largest mountain here, but that's quite a hike to go back through the city and follow the switchbacks, and then as it corkscrews up towards the top. There's no real corkscrew anymore, but more switchbacks on the backside of this volcano. It'll take you a good way, probably couple days, day and a half to get to the top. Xanthos said it would be about 3 days from Anthas, the tower, back to Anthas. That's why they expected Iva the White and her party back, and they haven't returned yet.
Seems like quite a climb. Maybe one last good night's of rest will have us better prepared.
Should we use any of this gold? I mean, we got paid for the last job, didn't we? Shouldn't we maybe get some mounts or something? Well, I don't know. The switchbacks might be too precarious for some animals. Although, they took about 20 to 30 horses, didn't they?
I remember them taking exactly 11 donkeys.
And the Ranger Perilous had her very distinct horse that she also took.
Okay, so animals can make it up. I don't know if it's going to be worth it, though. This game system is famous for travel time being the same whether you have animals or not.
Can you believe it?
Not until you can become clouds and fly across the globe does travel time change.
Now that'll make a great ballad.
Goddamn right. Well, where do we sleep?
Org says, we got rooms in the back. They're not the greatest rooms for heroes like you, but I threw the last few people out because they didn't pay their bill. Got 2 rooms on the house or on Tannis tab.
Rooms on the house sound excellent.
Yeah, so did we get paid any money?
The lady paid you, Sava paid you. How much was it, Randy?
Must not be much because my character has not much money.
Yeah, I've got 200.
I have 150.
I got
Yeah,
230.
I got 155, so I'm going to guess around 100 each, maybe?
I mean, I have 24, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it was like 400 gold.
I got paid in
Yeah.
exotic seafood and rare delicacies.
Yeah, divided amongst the bonus.
Yep, exactly.
So that makes sense. I'm gonna hand 5 gold over the proprietor and say,
Adventurers make more than the common folk, and I'm not gonna let that man celebrate himself out of whatever wealth he may have. We can pay our way, and we appreciate the hospitality, and I just need somewhere to lay my head. It doesn't need to be special.
All right. Gives you 2 keys, long wrought iron keys. Hikes his thumb over his shoulder and says, back through the kitchen. The only door to the back leads to the rooms. You can't miss them because they're the only 2 rooms, the locks on the doors. And as the night winds down, your party have a drink in your fill, however you wanted to do that. Given some nice soft buttered bread from Morg for the services rendered earlier in the day to the citizenry here at New Anthas, and you guys head back to the rooms. There are 2 rooms with 2 very old mats, semi-stuffed with straw, pillows stuffed with straw as well. Place is very dank and smells wet and of the sea.
Eladan, they're just gonna talk all night. You wanna bunk with me so we can just hit the hay?
That sounds good. Yeah, it'll just be all drawing and posing and artsy fartsy stuff.
And Mayron's color changes back to orange and burnt reds. And there's a gruesome, black, almost penned looking battle scene with a haiku in Sylvan.
Nice.
What does it say?
Barren winter time, before timely undeath, at the cold battle.